You ever get that feeling that life's testing how much crap you can take before you finally snap? That's kind of where I was the day all this started. It was early fall, air smelled like dry grass and diesel, and the sun was hitting my porch rail just right. I had coffee in one hand, my dog, Rusty, sitting by my boot, tail wagging lazy. Everything felt quiet, peaceful, mine. Then that damn white SUV rolled up. You could smell trouble before she even got out. Doors slammed, heels clicked, and out stepped this woman dressed like she was running for president of a country club. Clipboard tucked under her arm like it was some kind of badge. Behind her, two other folks, suits and fake smiles. "Morning," I said, keeping my voice polite but steady. She looked me up and down, eyes squinting like I was some pest she'd found crawling on her lawn. "Sir," she said, "we're from the Homeowners Association. We've had several complaints about this property. I'm afraid you're in violation of multiple codes." Now, I damn near laughed right there. "Ma'am," I said, "this land ain't part of no HOA. Never has been. I built this place with my own two hands long before y'all came sniff around." She smirked, lips tight. "Oh, I think you'll find that's no longer the case." Rusty gave a low growl. I didn't blame him. They started walking around like they owned the place, snapping pictures, whispering, pointing at my bar and my truck. Hell, even my old windmill. One of them muttered something about property value. I said, "Lady, you're trespassing. I'd appreciate it if you'd step back off my land." She stopped, turned real slow, and gave me this grin that could freeze fire. "You can either cooperate," she said, "or deal with legal consequences. Your choice." That's when I knew. This wasn't just a neighborly chat. It was a damn ambush in broad daylight. I stood there, stared at the horizon for a second, trying to keep calm. My daddy always said, "Never wrestle pig. You both get dirty and the pig likes it." But sometimes you gotta remind the pig whose mud it is. So I told her, "Ma'am, you got 5 minutes to leave before I call the sheriff." She chuckled. "Oh, honey," she said, "I am the law here." Now, I ain't one to lose my temper easy, but that line, that was gasoline on dry brush. I didn't say a word, just took a step forward, looked her square in the eyes. She flinched just a bit, but her pride held her ground. "You got no idea who you're messing with," she snapped. "Yeah," I said quietly, "that makes two of us." They left soon after, tires spitting gravel down my driveway. But I knew it wasn't over. Folks like that don't quit. They regroup. That night I sat out on the porch with Rusty, stare at the hills. Coyotes were howling, wind pushing through the trees. I could almost hear my dad's voice saying, "They're gonna push, boy. Don't bend." Next morning, sure enough, letter taped to my gate. Big fancy letterhead. Notice of violation, all that official junk. They wanted me to remove my barn, repaint my house, cut down unauthorized vegetation, and pay some made-up community maintenance fees. I just laughed, loud enough to scare off a crow. Ain't nothing gets under their skin like seeing you ain't scared. But the thing about bullies, they don't back off easy. Over the next week, it got worse. Some guy in a truck started idling across the road every night. A drone buzzed over my roof more than once. Couple of nails showed up in my driveway, right where I park. Rusty barked so much he near lost his voice. I kept record of everything. Pictures, dates, times. My lawyer buddy told me, "They're trying to smoke you out. Hold tight." Then came the court notice. They were actually trying to evict me from my own damn land. Said I was non-compliant with HOA regulations and creating a hostile environment. Hostile environment? Lady, I'm the only one out here. Closest neighbor's half a mile away. Still, they dragged me to court. I put on my old denim jacket, grabbed my folder of photos, and drove down to the courthouse with Rusty riding shotgun. He looked at me like, "We're gonna end this today, huh?" Inside, she was already there. Clipboard queen herself, sitting smug with her lawyer, whispering like they'd already won. When the judge walked in, everyone rose. He was an old fella, gray hair, sharp eyes, the kind that's seen every trick in the book. The HOA lawyer went first, talking circles, throwing around fancy words like jurisdiction, compliance, property valuation. I just sat there, quiet, waiting in. Then the judge turned to me. "Sir," he said, "what do you have to say for yourself?" I stood up, cleared my throat. "Well, Your Honor," I said, "I've been living on that land 15 years. Paid every damn tax. Fixed every fence. Never bothered a soul. These folks showed up a few weeks ago claiming they own the dirt under my boots. I don't know what kind of map they're looking at, but it sure as hell ain't the one God made." A little ripple of laughter rolled through the room. Even the bailiff cracked a grin. The judge leaned forward, curious. "You have documentation?" I handed him the folder. Deed, survey, photos, even a letter from the county dated back before the HOA was even formed. He looked through it slow, then turned to their lawyer. "Is this accurate?" The lawyer shifted in his seat. "Well, technically, Your Honor, the association's boundaries were expanded. Without his consent, the judge cut in." The lawyer froze. The judge set the folder down and leaned back. "Son," he said to the lawyer, "if I didn't know better, I'd say you folks were trying to pull a fast one. Karen, yeah, by now I'd learned her name, flushed red as a beet. Your Honor," she stammered, "this man's property is an eyesore. He refuses to maintain his." The judge raised a hand. "Ma'am, unless his barn is fouling on someone's head, it's none of your damn business." You could have heard a pin drop. I ain't gonna lie, I almost laughed out loud. The judge kept going. "I'm dismissing this nonsense. Case closed. And ma'am, I'd advise you to quit harassing this man before you find yourself on the wrong end of a restraining order." Karen's mouth opened and shut like a fish out of water. I just tipped my hat. "Thank you, Your Honor." When I walked out of that courthouse, sun hit my face, Rusty wagging his tail. I swear I could have floated. But deep down, I knew this wasn't really about just me. It was about every regular person out there who's had someone try to walk over them because they thought money or titles made them untouchable. Sometimes you gotta remind folks, the ground they're standing on don't belong to their clipboard. Couple weeks went by after that court day. I figured maybe that was it, you know? They'd lick their wounds, find someone else to mess with, and leave me and Rusty in peace. But people like her, they don't take losses easy. They twist them in their head till they feel like the world owes them revenge. I started getting these letters again, anonymous, typed, same fancy printer paper. "You're lowering our community standards. Expect further inspection. You will comply." Yeah, right. One night around 11, I heard something out by the barn. Rusty jumped up, hackles standing like needles. I grabbed my flashlight and headed out barefoot, breath fogged in the cold. There they were, two figures by my fence, try to pry off my private property sign. I shouted, "Hey!" and the beam caught their faces. Kids, teenagers, maybe 17, 18. They froze like deer. "Who sent you?" I asked. One muttered, "We were told to clean up the area." Told my ass. I let him go with a warning. Didn't want to ruin their lives over someone else's dirty work. But inside, I knew exactly whose idea it was. Next morning, I drove down to town, parked by the cafe where folks gossip more than they breathe. I sat at the counter, ordered coffee black as midnight, and started to skin quiet questions. Turns out Karen been bragging around, say she'd teach that hermit a lesson, clean up the eyesore on the hill. Even talked about getting the county board involved. I ain't one for drama, but that rubbed me raw. So I did what any smart man does when words don't work. I started gathering proof. Emails she'd sent, recordings of her threatening neighbors, hell, even a video of her yelling at the mailman for driving too fast. Took about 2 weeks till my folder was thick enough to choke a shredder. Then one morning, I got a call from her lawyer, voice slick as oil. "Mr. Lawson," he said, "perhaps we can reach a civil agreement. Miss Thatcher would like to purchase your property to resolve all disputes." I nearly dropped my phone, Logan. "Buddy," I said, "tell your client she couldn't buy this dirt if it came gift wrapped with a ribbon." Click. Ain't heard silence that sweet in a long time. Couple days later, I heard tires again. Same white SUV crawling up my drive. She got out slow this time. No clipboard, no entourage. Just her and that fake smile, hanging on her face like bad paint. "Mr. Lawson," she said, voice sugar sweet. "I think we got off on the wrong foot." "Ma'am," I said, "we didn't get off on the wrong foot. You stomped on mine." She sighed, glanced at Rusty sitting by my porch. "Look, all I want is for everyone to live peacefully. I'll make you an offer, double market value. Cash. You can move somewhere quiet." That's when I realized she didn't understand a damn thing about me. "This is my quiet," I said. "You think money's the point? This land's where my wife's ashes rest, where my son took his first steps, where my old man taught me how to swing a hammer. You can't buy that." Her smile cracked just a little. Then she muttered, "You'll regret this," and turned back to her car. I watched her taillights fade down the dirt road. For a second I felt bad. She looked smaller than before, almost lost. But pity don't mix well with poison. Life settled again after that. Few cold months, lot of long nights fixing fences and clearing brush. Rusty got slower, started limping from age. I'd sit with him by the fire, tell him old stories he'd already heard 100 times. Then spring came, new grass, new sky, new peace. I thought the storm was gone for good, till one morning, envelope shows up from the county. Turns out she filed some complaint about illegal waste storage. Claimed my barn was a hazard. I almost tore up, but my lawyer said, "Bring it in, we'll end this once and for all." So we did. Back to court, same old judge. When he saw her name on the docket, he rubbed his temples like he had a headache coming. "Back again, Miss Thatcher?" He said, "You just can't let it go, can you?" She launched into another speech about community standards, safety codes, environmental concerns, blah, blah, blah. When it was my turn, I pulled out a flash drive, showed the judge a video from my trail cam, the night them teenagers were pulling down my sign, showed him emails from her encouraging neighbors to document violations. Judge leaned back slow. "Ma'am," he said, "you understand this is harassment, right?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. He sighed, signed a paper, and handed it to her lawyer. "Restraining order granted. Any further contact, and you'll be fastened criminal charges." Her face went pale. I looked at her, not with hate, not with pride, just tired. "Go home," I said. "Find something better to do with your time." And for the first time, she didn't have a comeback, just turned and walked out. When I stepped outside, the sky was that kind of blue you only get after a storm. Clean, endless, honest. Rusty was waiting in the truck, tail thumping, slow against the seat. I climbed in, gave him a pat. "We did it, buddy. We finally did it." We drove home windows down, wind whipping the smell of pine to the cab. Back at the house, I stood on the porch, looking over the land. The barn, the fields, the hills stretching out like forever. Every nail, every plank, it all meant something. And I thought about folks like her, how they spend their lives trying to control what ain't theirs, how they measure worth in dollars and titles, not heart and sweat. But this world don't bend easy. You can't fence in freedom, and you sure as hell can't evict a man from his own story. So yeah, maybe I ain't fancy. Maybe my paint's chipped, my truck's old, and my dog snores louder than thunder. But I wake up every morning knowing I earned every damn inch of this life. And that, my friend, is worth more than any HOA on earth. Now, every time I see that sunrise hitting the porch rail just right, coffee in my hand, Rusty snoozing by my boot, I smile. 'Cause peace ain't about perfection. It's about keeping what's yours, standing your ground, and remembering that sometimes the best revenge is just living free.